The government will not be seeking an extension of the state of public emergency SOE imposed in St. Catherine on June 17. Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang made the announcement in the House of Representatives on Tuesday afternoon.
And on the advice of the heads of the security forces, we are satisfied that the declaration of a state of emergency has allowed the security forces to bring the area under some level of control. The strategy will be reshaped and to maintain the current status quo as necessary. If there's any further change in the situation, we'll advise nations what further steps can be taken if it needs to return to a state of public emergency. But at this point, we'll not ask for an extension. We'll allow the current 14 days to expire, and the security forces have pledged to use whatever current tools they have, and to make strategic deployment to maintain the status quo.
The current measure is due to expire on Thursday, June 30. Dr. Chang used the opportunity to highlight that the SOE proved successful in reducing criminal activity.
The situation has improved significantly. In fact, of the 10 days preceding the declaration, there were 15 murders in St. Catherine. There were 4 since the declaration, and in fact, in the last few days, absolutely none, taking place in 2 police divisions, north and south, where in fact the gang conflict has seen increased activity for the last 2 months. The 10 days preceding was a peak, and the government thought appropriate to so declare.
Meanwhile, Dr. Chang noted that the government and the opposition agreed that changes to the emergency powers regulations are needed, but that more time is required to ensure that they are in keeping with the Constitution.
We'll now continue to review the regulations. We'll take a look at, we'll again further examine what has been recommended by the opposition and seek to come to a set of regulations that can be used where the level of violence increases above the capacity of normal policing.
Opposition leader Mark Golding, in his remarks, said it was a wise decision not to seek an extension on the government's part.
The ruling of the Constitutional Court was a profound juncture in our jurisprudence because it assessed the format of the regulations for states of public emergency, which were largely in a form that had been developed many, many decades ago. I think actually in wartime conditions, and the extent to which they could be used, given the current constitutional arrangements that we have, of course, including the Charter of Rights, which was passed into law by consensus in 2011. It could not have happened without consensus. Violating that by unconstitutional measures is a risky way for the state to proceed, because the compensation arrangements are such that it could be a huge cost to the public purse if one doesn't move wisely forward. So I'm glad that the government has decided to spend the time to try and get the regulations in a form that will be compliant with the Constitution going forward, and I welcome that decision.
Mr. Golding says the opposition is more in favor of zones of special operations.
To the people of St. Catherine, I would say this. We would like to see a continuation of the imposition of law and order. We would like to see a continuation of the presence of the security forces in the areas where there has been high levels of violence. We do not believe that there's any reason why the expiration of the state of emergency should change that. We believe if the concern is about the role of the military, we would be in favor of a zone of special operations being declared in the hotspot areas to maintain law and order until this legislative solution can be brought to Parliament and passed, so that we can then get to a situation where the police have the legal tools to deal with identified violence producers who need to be removed from the communities where they're prone to creating mayhem, but where the current rules and laws don't easily allow that to be addressed.